The conference hall was packed. Journalists from CNN, Al Jazeera, BBC, and SABC leaned in, eyes glued to the stage. Cameras clicked, lights flared. But no one expected what came next. Julius Malema, known for never backing down, stood at the podium. His eyes were blazing, but his voice was calm. "Mr. Trump," he began, "leave Africa alone. You've caused enough damage." The room tensed. In the front row, a Fox News anchor lowered his pen. Trump's advisor coughed nervously. Was this really happening? Malema continued. "You call yourselves defenders of freedom, but you try to silence Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a man who stands with his people?" The name alone brought murmurs from the room. Someone whispered, "He's talking about Burkina Faso." Then Malema leaned closer to the mic. "Ibrahim is the one thing you fear, a free African who cannot be bought. He is your nightmare, and we stand with him." A chill swept through the hall. Cameras caught Trump's expression. He looked stunned. It wasn't just a political statement. It was war, in words. And it had just begun. Back in Washington, Donald Trump was watching the live broadcast from his private suite. His smile disappeared the moment Malema mentioned Ibrahim Traoré. He turned to his aide. "Did he just say nightmare?" The aide nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. The speech is going viral." On Twitter, hashtags were exploding. Malema vs Trump. Africa will not be silenced. I stand with Ibrahim. In Africa, videos of Traoré visiting villages, hugging orphans, and sleeping in camps with his soldiers began to resurface. Every scene looked like hope. Real, raw, human. Back at the press conference, Malema wasn't finished. "You label African heroes as threats, but your wars, your weapons, your greed, they've cost us more than any so-called dictator ever has." The crowd was completely still. Even CNN's anchor wiped a tear from her eye. Trump was no longer smiling. He stood up and walked out of the room, mid-broadcast. Malema had pierced something deep. Not just in Trump, but in everyone watching. Something was shifting, and the world could feel it. Burkina Faso. The desert sun was setting over Ouagadougou as Captain Ibrahim Traoré sat silently with a group of young children. No bodyguards, no cameras, just him, barefoot in the sand, handing out books and bread. His aide rushed to him, phone in hand. "Captain, you're trending." Malema just shook the whole world. Traoré didn't even look at the screen. He just smiled gently at the children and said, "Let them talk. We must keep building." But the internet was on fire. Clips of Malema's speech were everywhere. Artists were already painting murals of Traoré across African cities. CNN's late-night host whispered, This might be a turning point." Back in the village, one small girl hugged Traoré tightly. He whispered to her, "You're the reason I fight." That one moment, shared by a local journalist, broke the internet. Millions wept watching it. For the first time in decades, Africa was no longer just reacting. Africa was speaking, and the world had no choice but to listen. The next morning, Africa was wide awake and loud. From Nairobi to Lagos, from Dakar to Harare, people were sharing the same clip, Julius Malema's voice echoing, "Ibrahim is the nightmare you cannot control." A Ghanaian radio host cried on air, "I've never felt this proud to be African." In Accra, a teacher paused her class to play Traoré's village video for her students. When it ended, a boy stood up and said, "One day I want to protect my people too." Across the ocean, Trump's team was in full panic mode. News outlets were calling the incident an African awakening. But in Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré stayed quiet. He refused interviews, refused fanfare. He simply got into a pickup truck and drove to a flood-hit village that had been without food for 3 days. When he arrived, he didn't make speeches. He helped dig trenches with his hands. A local elder, wiping tears from his eyes, whispered, "He is one of us, not above us." That whisper, recorded by a local student, soon became a viral anthem. Africa was not just defending Ibrahim. Africa was beginning to believe again. Inside Mar-a-Lago, Trump slammed the table. "This is getting out of control," he barked. "Why is this kid dominating global headlines?" His advisor leaned in cautiously. "Sir, it's not just the speech. The people feel him." Trump's eyes narrowed. "I want ECOWAS to handle him, jail him, remove him, quietly." He picked up the secure phone. One call. Just one. In Abuja, the ECOWAS president received that call. Short, sharp, and dangerous. "You either control Ibrahim, or we'll control both of you." That night, an emergency ECOWAS meeting was scheduled. But news of Trump's pressure leaked, and social media went wild. Young Africans flooded Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook with one message: "Touch Ibrahim and Africa will rise." In South Africa, Malema responded with another video. "We warned you. If you try to arrest him, you arrest all of us." His voice cracked. His hands trembled. And in that trembling was truth. Because this wasn't about one man anymore. It was about all the times Africa had been silenced. And this time, they were done being quiet. Her name was Awa Diallo, a nurse in Bobo Dioulasso. She had nothing to do with politics, until her 8-year-old son died during a drought 2 years ago. She had begged leaders for help. No one came. No one. Except Captain Ibrahim Traoré. He arrived in her village quietly. No press. No cameras. He listened to her. He cried with her. And he built a new water system, with his own hands helping mix the cement. Now, watching Malema's speech on a cracked radio, Awa sat outside her hut, tears running down her cheeks. "My son is gone," she whispered. "But Ibrahim gave me a reason to live again." She opened her old phone and recorded a message. "To the world. This man is not your enemy. He is our son. He is our hope. If you touch him, you destroy the last good thing we have." The video was raw, shaky, unedited. But it hit harder than any press statement. Within 6 hours, "Yo, Ibrahim is our hope," trended in 13 countries. Millions cried. Even news anchors couldn't hide their tears. This wasn't just politics anymore. It was deeply human. And it had become personal. In a cold, dim conference room in Abuja, the ECOWAS heads gathered. Burkina Faso's seat was empty. The agenda was short. Remove Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Some leaders, under foreign pressure, nodded silently. Others looked away, uncomfortable. The room was heavy with betrayal. But before a single vote was cast, a folder was placed on the table, an anonymous leak. Inside, emails, call transcripts, and private voice recordings. Proof that foreign lobbyists, connected to U.S. oil and arms companies, were funding the pressure campaign against Traoré. One delegate stood up in disbelief. "This isn't about peace. This is about control." The room went silent. A voice note from an ECOWAS insider leaked that night. "This isn't just about Ibrahim. It's about ending the last piece of Africa's pride." When the clip surfaced online, anger exploded across the continent. Protesters marched in Mali. Ghanaian artists painted murals of Ibrahim with a cracked ECOWAS symbol behind him. Nigerian students took to the streets shouting, "We are not your colonies." The meeting ended without a vote. ECOWAS backed down, but someone else wasn't done. Not by a long shot. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the power went out in northern Ouagadougou. 15 minutes later, gunshots echoed through the night. A convoy carrying food and medical supplies, funded by Traoré himself, was ambushed on its way to a rural hospital. 3 soldiers were wounded. 2 villagers died. A 10-year-old girl named Fatimata was hit in the crossfire. She had been waiting at the roadside with her mother to receive medicine. The country went still. Traoré arrived by helicopter just before sunrise. He knelt beside the girl's body. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just cried. Journalists captured the moment, a president weeping beside a child's lifeless body. Within hours, the photo was everywhere, and with it, a caption written by Fatimata's mother. She believed in Ibrahim. She said he would save us. Please don't let him fall. That one sentence broke millions of hearts. In South Africa, Malema shared the image with just 3 words. Enough is enough. In Washington, a reporter asked Trump on live TV if the U.S. had anything to do with the attack. He smiled coldly and said, "I don't know that guy. Never met him." But the world had met him now, and they were watching. Across Burkina Faso, children began writing letters. Some used crumpled paper, some wrote on cardboard scraps, but every letter began the same. "Dear Captain Ibrahim." A boy named Samurai wrote, "They say you should leave. Please don't. My father died and you gave us rice. You're my hero." A little girl named Amina wrote, "I saw you give my aunt medicine. She didn't die. Please don't be scared. We are with you." Thousands of letters poured in, and volunteers started reading them live on TikTok and YouTube. Each letter, filled with pain and innocence, made adults cry across the world. One broke the internet. A blind boy from the Sahel dictated to his teacher, "Captain, even though I cannot see your face, I feel you in my heart." When Ibrahim heard this, he stood silently under a tree for 10 minutes, alone, thinking. His advisor asked, "What now?" Ibrahim looked up at the rising sun. "Now I walk with them, no guards, no guns. Let the world see who they are trying to silence." That day, he walked 5 kilometers through a refugee camp, barefoot, and every step left a deeper mark than any speech ever could. The refugee camp was buzzing. Captain Ibrahim Traoré had arrived without warning, walking barefoot among the tents. People wept as he passed. Some reached out just to touch his arm. He greeted every one of them by name. How he knew their names, no one knew. But then she appeared. A woman in a red dress, torn, dirty, but proudly worn. Her name was Mariama, and her story had once been forgotten. She held a baby wrapped in an old scarf. She had walked 60 kilometers just to thank the man who had once saved her life during a militia raid, before he was even president. She didn't speak. She simply handed him a folded note. He opened it slowly. It read, "You gave me back my dignity. I named my son Ibrahim." Captain Traoré looked down. The baby stared up at him and smiled. No cameras, no microphones, just silence and tears. And then someone in the crowd began to sing. A slow, trembling voice. Then another joined, then another. A song of hope, a song of freedom. It wasn't a protest, it was worship, and the whole world could feel it, even through the screen. Washington, D.C. A top Pentagon analyst sat staring at his screen. "He's dangerous," the general said. The analyst shook his head. "Not in the way you think." "What do you mean?" "He doesn't control people with weapons. He controls them with faith." Back in Burkina Faso, drone footage showed something chilling and beautiful. Thousands of young people were gathering at schools, community centers, and abandoned farms, not to fight, but to build. They were planting food, laying bricks, carrying clean water from village to village on motorbikes and carts. All in Ibrahim's name. No guns, no speeches, just work. A CNN reporter asked a boy why he was helping. He answered simply, "Because Captain Ibrahim works for us, so we work for each other." It spread like fire. They called it the silent revolution. Even some Western newspapers started to soften. For the first time, they didn't call him a military ruler. They called him something else, the people's brother. And that scared the powerful more than any soldier ever could. Because how do you destroy a man who has already become a movement? Julius Malema sat alone in a Johannesburg radio station. The world was still reacting to his speech. He had become a hero overnight. But he didn't feel proud. He felt tired. A producer handed him a letter. It came this morning, from Burkina Faso. He opened it live on air. It was from a 12-year-old girl named Zara. Her father had died during a border raid, and she had been watching Malema's press conference on a cracked TV with her uncle. She wrote, "When you said Ibrahim is our nightmare to the West, I smiled. But I am afraid too. What if they kill him? They always kill our good ones. Please protect him. Please, please, don't let him die." Malema stopped reading. His voice broke. His eyes filled with tears. And in that moment, live on radio, he whispered, "I promise you, little one, he will not fall." That clip was shared more than 12 million times in 24 hours. And it wasn't just Africans crying. The world had never seen this side of the continent before. And now, they couldn't look away. It happened in Kaya. A boy no older than 11 stood at a construction site. Dust covered his face. His hands shook as he lifted a heavy brick. His name was Abdoulaye, and his village had no school. But today, he was building one. When a journalist asked why, the boy simply said, "Captain Ibrahim said Africa can rise if we build with our hands." The video hit the internet like a storm. Viewers watched as this small child, barefoot, poured water on bricks under the sun. Behind him, dozens more worked. Volunteers. No government orders, no donations, just people choosing to act. Someone asked him, "What if you get tired?" He smiled. "If Ibrahim didn't rest, why should I?" By midnight, the video had 27 million views. But something darker was happening behind the scenes. Foreign media began calling it a cult of personality. A well-known Western commentator tweeted, "This man is dangerous, he's hypnotizing Africans." But Africans weren't hypnotized. They were awake. And for the first time in decades, they were choosing their own hero, not one chosen for them. It started as a whisper, a secret letter sent from a U.S. official to an ECOWAS leader. It wasn't supposed to be seen by the public, but it leaked. The contents sent shockwaves across the continent. Ibrahim Traoré is a growing threat to regional stability and U.S. interests. Neutralize him, economically or otherwise. People were stunned. Neutralize? Was this how they saw him? Within hours, Malema responded during a youth event in Soweto. "You don't neutralize dreams. You don't silence love. You don't crush unity. You fear him because he cannot be owned." He raised his fist. "And if you lay one finger on him, we will rise." At that very moment in Burkina Faso, Traoré stood in front of a newly built clinic. His voice was quiet, but steady. "If helping the poor makes me a threat, then so be it. I will not stop." That clip, only 42 seconds long, brought tears to millions, not because of fear, but because they could see the danger was real. And yet, he stood anyway, alone, if he must. The sun was scorching in Dori. Captain Ibrahim Traoré had been walking for 6 hours, meeting displaced families, inspecting makeshift tents, and handing out bags of rice himself. His guards begged him to rest. "You haven't eaten, sir, please," he waved them off. "I'll rest when they eat." But as he lifted the last sack, his body finally gave in. He collapsed. Gasps filled the air. A doctor ran over. A child screamed. Within minutes, the footage was online. It wasn't polished. It wasn't planned. It was real. A man exhausted, not by war, but by love. People across Africa wept. In Dakar, a woman threw her phone and cried, "We don't deserve him." In Nairobi, students gathered in prayer. In Burkina Faso, mothers sobbed as the photo of Ibrahim unconscious in the dirt spread like wildfire. He was rushed to a clinic. No luxury hospital, no presidential suite. He refused. And later that night, when he finally opened his eyes, he whispered to the nurse beside him, "Are the people okay?" That line, "Are the people okay?" was written on t-shirts, sung in choirs, and painted on every street wall from Cape Town to Cairo, because in that moment, the world finally understood. This man was not leading for power. He was leading with love. The attack was silent but deadly. A small clinic in northern Burkina Faso, recently built by Ibrahim's youth program, was hit by a drone strike. No media covered it. No official claimed responsibility. 5 women died. 3 of them were nurses. One was Awa Diallo, the same mother who had once spoken on video about how Ibrahim helped bury her son and rebuild her hope. The country went numb. At the funeral, Captain Ibrahim Traoré didn't speak. He stood at the grave, shoulders shaking, tears pouring down his face. And then, something unforgettable happened. The crowd, over 10,000 people deep, sat down on the bare ground, all of them. Old, young, rich, poor. They sat, in silence, for 11 full minutes. In that silence, people heard more than words. They heard grief, rage, love, unity. Later that night, Ibrahim made one post. No hashtags, no captions. Just a photo of Awa's grave with one line, "We will finish what you started." It became the most shared African photo of the year. The pressure on Ibrahim Traoré reached a boiling point. A classified cable leaked. The U.S. had been planning sanctions, not just on Burkina Faso, but on any country openly supporting Traoré. Behind closed doors, West African leaders began to quietly distance themselves. Malema called Ibrahim directly. The call was tense, emotional. "You should run," Malema said. "They're coming for you now, brother." Ibrahim stayed quiet for a long time. Then he answered softly, "I'm not going anywhere. If they want to break me, they will have to walk through millions." And that's exactly what happened. When news spread of possible international arrest orders, something remarkable unfolded. Millions across Africa and the diaspora took to the streets in peace. From Johannesburg to Dakar, from Bamako to Brooklyn, people marched with candles, holding photos of Ibrahim, chanting only one word: stay. It was the largest Pan-African protest in decades. Even CNN aired it live. One American journalist said through tears, "This is no longer about one leader. This is the soul of a continent speaking." A month later, under heavy global scrutiny, a major African summit was held in Addis Ababa. Everyone was expecting Ibrahim Traoré to show up with guards, suits, and speeches. But he didn't. He walked in wearing a simple white shirt, sandals, and no title, just a smile. When the floor was given to him, he stood silently. The room froze. Then he spoke. "I don't need a title. I don't need a crown. I only need my people. If you fear a man who has nothing, then maybe you should fear what Africa is becoming." The hall erupted in applause. Some delegates wept. That day, no vote was cast. No agreement signed. But history shifted. Because for the first time in modern politics, a man walked into power without asking for it, and walked out more powerful than any president alive. If this story made you feel something, if it made you cry, if it reminded you of hope, then do one thing. Honor the message. Like this video, if you believe in a better Africa. Comment, "I stand with Ibrahim," so the world knows you're watching. And subscribe if you want more stories that touch your heart and give voice to the voiceless. This isn't just a story. This is the heartbeat of a rising people. Africa is awake, and the world is watching.